They always start with a kind of storm, like a real powerful storm. And there's always this dark, thick rain, like fresh motor oil. Storm started, something happened. His face, his eyes were different.
By the time they tried to evacuate the cities, it was already too late. The infection was everywhere.
The virus is harvesting. What do you mean? 7 and 3 began life in the lab of the first war with vaccines. Millions died in the first week of the pandemic dreams. We are the deep black death, smallpox, mutated disease. Flu shot propaganda for all population and troops. Avoid the plague. It might have steeped into the room. It's now we're born with firestorms signal our doom. The dead returns with the pissed off zombie moves. The sprinkler system equipped with AUAG. With the round up survivors in the cold facility. Watch the process of terror from the hill to the stream. I remain in the gas mask, I still filter my water clean. This isn't past tense on the plague of bad things. Couldn't be eradicated like smallpox in action. Avian influenza with the jet stream is how it happens. 2020 combined with coronavirus, body stacking.
The world is now at the start of the influenza pandemic.
It started as rioting. It was in the street outside. It was coming through windows.
Sequence the virus and determine its origin.
Authorities in China are on alert following a case of bubonic plague in the country's northwest. The disease, caused by a bacterial infection, was behind one of the world's deadliest epidemics. In the 14th century, the Black Death killed about 50 million people worldwide. Patrick Falk has more from Beijing.
Now, reports say the victim was a herdsman in Bayan Luo City in the Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region, northwest of Beijing, and he'd apparently been taken to hospital on Saturday, and then on Sunday, authorities issued a level 3 alert, which is the second lowest on a 4-tier system, and it basically means people have to take precautions. They have to tell authorities if there are suspected cases, and they're not to hunt for or eat wild animals. This is a disease which is closely linked with wild animals.
Hi, I'm Fox San Antonio's Jessica Headley.
And I'm Ryan Wolf.
Our greatest responsibility.
The news site Deadspin recently produced a mashup video that went viral and unsettled many Americans.
Flagging our country.
It exposed how America's largest broadcaster forced its local anchors to read an Orwellian script. The Sinclair Broadcasting Group demanded its local anchors recite the same lines, demonizing media and sowing distrust, with warnings like this.
The sharing of bias and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
What's worse, if you actually watch Sinclair's programming, you'll see they violate almost everything they warn against.
Everybody knows the hit Netflix show Stranger Things, but did you know the plot was based off a real conspiracy theory? The show was originally supposed to be named Montauk after the 1980s conspiracy. According to legends, the Montauk Project was a covert government operation that illegally recruited runaway kids for purposes of mind control, time travel, and even interdimensional travel. Sound familiar? The theory is that the government was using the basement of Camp Hero in New York to run illegal psychedelic experiments on children. Preston Nichols, a man that claims to have repressed memories of being a part of the project, says that there was a boy named Duncan who was by far the most powerful. Nichols claimed that Duncan could move objects with his mind and see through someone else's eyes. Sounds a lot like 11. After years of work, Nichols also claimed that they successfully established a portal where they could travel to different times and places. But after unknown creatures started coming through, they smashed the portal, filled the basement with cement, and brainwashed all of the employees. As crazy as it sounds, we know things like MK Ultra and Project Stargate existed. The government has tried similar illegal mind experiments before.
The CIA was scared stiff the KGB was going to get all this LSD and come over and start dosing people. So we bought every drop of LSD in existence at that point.
The CIA has just authorized the purchase of 10 kilograms of pure LSD-25, enough to dose more than half the population of the United States. Conduct experiments for an operation called Midnight Climax.
George had a CIA safe house stocked with booze. George would sit behind this one-way mirror, drinking martinis, sitting on a portable toilet. If he had to take a leak, he didn't want to get up and leave.
White pays prostitutes to lure their clients to the agency's safe house.
Hookers who would bring these suckers back to the apartment and dose them with pure LSD-25.
This is where I have my effect, in the mind.
This is lysergic acid diethylamide, better known as acid. The powerful drug was first synthesized in 1938 in Switzerland. With a dose of mere micrograms, the mind becomes confused. Perception is distorted. Personal identity is called into question. The results can be euphoric bliss or deadly panic. White takes meticulous notes and files his reports to his CIA handlers. Operation Midnight Climax is part of a larger top-secret CIA program called MK Ultra. The goal: learn how to control and even reprogram people's minds. The CIA believes LSD might hold the key. Over the next 10 years, the agency doses a cross-section of the American public. Everyone from unwitting housewives to soldiers to even criminals like gangster Whitey Bulger is tested.
You know, what the CIA really dreamed of was sort of like a drug you could give to someone, get them to commit all sorts of unspeakable acts, and they wake up the next day and they don't remember what they've done.
The US spends a significantly greater amount of money on their military than any other nation. In fact, it spends more than the next 8 highest spending countries combined. Over half of that spending goes toward maintenance and upkeep, along with paying their personnel salaries. But a good chunk of that money goes toward research and development. This totals a little bit more than 10% of their entire budget. This spending on research alone is as much as Russia spends total on its armed forces. And this makes sense. If you want to maintain the status as the world's most powerful military, you need to be constantly designing and operating the most powerful and most advanced weaponry. Another interesting note about the US defense budget is its so-called black budget. The US government is accountable to its taxpayers and must publicly disclose how they are spending the taxpayers' money. Obviously, you wouldn't want a potential enemy to simply be able to look up and see what new top-secret weapons you are developing or classified operations you are running. So the US will hide some of its spendings throughout its budget with nondescript project names like Tractor Nail or Link Polymeria, around $60 billion. With all of this money going towards secret black budgets in research and development, the US has built dozens of top-secret bases for this work to be carried out. The first is the Dugway Proving Grounds. Dugway is located in Utah, about 100 miles southwest of Salt Lake City. It is an extremely large facility taking up over 1,200 square miles. The base is used for research and testing of chemical, biological, and radiological weapons, mostly for defensive measures, but reportedly also for use as offensive weapons. The US is party to the Biological Weapons Convention of 1972, which bans acquiring and retaining these weapons. However, the US has continued to produce and stockpile biological weapons like anthrax at Dugway. In 2015, a lab at Dugway accidentally shipped live anthrax samples to over a dozen locations throughout the country. Dugway has also become a prime target for UFO conspiracy theorists, nicknaming the site the New Area 51. They claim that secret underground bases at Dugway are reverse engineering UFO technology. Places such as Granite and Wildcat Mountain are on the top of their list. The next is Cheyenne Mountain Complex. The facility was made famous from the movie and TV show Stargate. Cheyenne was built during the Cold War as the headquarters of NORAD, which is tasked with monitoring any possible threat over North America.
So if Satan was going to reach out to you,
that were hidden backwards in rock music.
I remember my mom scaring the crap out of me of saying like, you know, little Susie came home and she got a piece of paper someone gave her with instructions to summon the devil. You don't mess around with that. So satanic about backwards messages in music because it sounds like nonsense.
Yeah, well, it was started by some Christian fundamentalists in the late 1970s. They said that messages hidden backwards in rock music, if you listen to them played forwards, these messages would bypass your conscious mind and work their way into your subconscious.
If you play anything backwards, it does legitimately sound creepy as hell.
Yes.
And if you told me beforehand, like, hey man, you're about to hear Satan's voice, I'd be freaking out. And I'm sure I would hear Satan's voice.
Well, as Bill Hicks put it, if you're playing a record backwards, making it go brrr, you are Satan. Now, the Beatles popularized it during Rain. They were doing it intentionally.
Sure.
But then people started listening to all of their other tracks and hearing messages.
That's where the whole Paul is Dead thing happened, right?
Precisely.
So that was a case of urban legend meeting pareidolia and apophenia. Pareidolia is finding signal where there is no signal, right?
Exactly.
So let's say you got a bunch of clouds, you see the face of Satan in there. Apophenia is interpreting the face of Satan in the clouds to mean that you should go out and murder people. Is that right?
Right. With the Beatles, everyone started listening and hearing all of these other things, and it spread everywhere. There was a DJ in 1981 who started playing Stairway to Heaven and saying, no, there is a very clear backwards message.
If there's a bustle in your hedgerow, don't be alone there. It's just a sprinkling for the May Queen. in the long run. And there's still time to change the road you're on.
Most people will say that these messages are put in these songs to subliminally put satanic messages into our minds, and some will even say these messages are proof that these artists are part of the Illuminati. It's not just songs that are reversed, but also people's casual speech. A man named David John Oates studies a theory that he calls reverse speech. The way this works, according to Oates, is that every 15 to 20 seconds when someone is speaking, they will subconsciously say something that, when reversed, reveals their true intentions or motivations. So, by reversing someone's speech, you can find out their true motives.
When I saw President Putin in China, I felt that the most effective way to ensure that that didn't happen was to talk to him directly.
And here's a clip from a reverse speech analysis from Hillary Clinton.
We are also very pleased by everything that he's been able to do, and we've loved being here. So, you know, it kind of
Washington ways
balances it way itself out. Bless the air. This is no idea.
Bless the air. This is no idea.
So this poses the question as to whether or not any of this reverse audio stuff should actually be taken seriously. And here are my thoughts on that. I think I'm pretty open-minded, and I really did give this some thought. The whole Illuminati thing, not so much, but I did consider the reverse speech theory a little bit. Here's one thing I found that was fairly interesting about it though. This next one is another example of the reverse speech theory. It's from part of Neil Armstrong's speech after the first lunar landing on the moon.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
And finally, here's another clip from the reverse speech analysis of Obama.
That typically is suspicious of Chicagoans in the city.
Okay, so now you're probably wondering why those were significant. The reason why is because I lied. Those reverse messages I put on the screen aren't even similar to what is shown in the actual videos. I literally just made up those messages myself. Here's what they're actually supposed to say, according to the videos. It's
one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
And last but not least, here is the Obama clip again.
That typically is suspicious of Chicagoans in the city.
There are probably hundreds of ways you could interpret these. The only reason you interpret it a specific way is because the dialogue is written on the screen, so you try to make the reverse noise sound like the words you're seeing on the screen. Change the words on the screen, and the meaning totally changes, as I just demonstrated. Even further proof of this would be to go to one of the reverse audio videos and try to listen to the reverse audio without looking at the words on the screen.